Alright reefers, while this video is about SPS corals, it'll also apply to other corals as well. Reef tanks require stability. You do not want to have big swings in your parameters. Your water parameters, lighting, and temperature should stay as consistent as possible throughout the day. If you do have to make changes, make them small and make them slow. While it is tempting to make big changes when problems arise, just remember to take it slow and have patience. Patience is a necessity in reefing. Just remember, nothing good happens fast in reefing. So let's start by having a look at lighting. Lighting for an SPS tank requires lights that have a higher PAR and proper spectrum. Lighting for this tank consists of 4 Kessel A360X lights. They are mounted at the top of the tank and the PAR ranges from 100 on the bottom to 300 on the top. There are many options for lighting. I suggest finding one that has the proper spectrum and PAR and one that fits in your budget, and that light should do fine for you. Next up is temperature. I keep my tanks between 77 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And as we come up to my Montepora Island rocks, I'm reminded of coral placement. Some corals are encrusting, some corals are plating, so deciding where to put each coral takes some thought so that corals don't get overgrown or overshaded. I find that I have to regularly trim those Monte caps because they will shade the corals underneath them. Next up is flow. SPS corals tend to like higher flow. How high? Well, it really depends on each coral. The corals will show you by showing great polyp extension when they're happy. If you have low polyp extension, try moving that coral into a lower flow area. If your coral is discolored or pale, try moving it to a higher flow area. In general, if the polyps on the coral are out, then that means that they're happy in the flow that they're in. Alright, time for the good stuff, water parameters. For specific gravity, I like to keep my tanks between 1.024 and 1.026. Generally, you want to keep your alkalinity between 8 and 12 DKH. I keep this tank at 8.5. Alkalinity is one of the parameters that can make or break an SPS tank, so keeping your alkalinity stable can help ensure your success. Next up is calcium. I aim for a range between 350 and 450 parts per million. If you're having difficulty maintaining your alkalinity and calcium, check your magnesium. I suggest a range between 1250 and 1400 parts per million. Next up is the one we all struggle with at one point, nitrates. I suggest a range of less than or equal to 10 parts per million, but not 0. 0 nitrates tends to promote dinoflagellates. And that leaves us with phosphates. I suggest a level of equal to or less than 0.04 parts per million, but you do not want 0. For the same reason as you don't want 0 nitrates, it tends to promote dinoflagellates. Another consideration is coral distribution. Not all corals like really high light and really high flow, so you have to find that sweet spot that they like, and that may take a little trial and error. If you are enjoying these videos, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified of new videos. As you watch this video, you may start thinking to yourself, well, where do I start if I want to keep SPS coral? Once you are comfortable testing your tank and keeping your parameters in range, I suggest starting with beginner SPS coral. such as Monopora, green slimer Acropora, Pocillopora, Pavona, and Leptocerus. Focusing on stability rather than trying to achieve a number will be more beneficial when you're trying to keep SPS coral. Testing your water parameters regularly will help ensure your success with SPS corals. Some parameters change daily, some change more frequently than that, so it's important to know where your tank is in its water parameters. And speaking of parameters, it is important to start with a good quality source water. I suggest reverse osmosis deionized water with a TDS of 0. And having good quality source water doesn't do you any good if you don't do water changes regularly. So I suggest to do at least a 20% water change every 2 weeks to keep your trace elements and to keep your water chemistry in check. Another tip that applies to all reef tanks is to look at the tank every day. At least for a few minutes, just look around the tank and see if anything looks odd, because then you can treat it quickly before it becomes a big problem. And I know it's tempting to try to move your coral around, but I suggest leaving them stay put for a few weeks and see how they do. One sure way to make SPS corals unhappy is to keep moving them around. Since keeping lower nutrients is often a hurdle for people trying to keep SPS corals, I suggest not overfeeding your fish, and this will keep nitrate and phosphate in a lower range. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy your tank. You've worked this hard to create this ecosystem for you to enjoy, so don't forget to sit back and do so. If you're new to reefing, just remember to take it slow. Nothing good happens fast in reefing, and this tank took a good 8 months before it was ready for SPS coral. After about 3 months of cycling it, I decided to go to a frag swap and buy a bunch of SPS corals, and when I put them in the tank, I lost about half of them. So then I waited about another 5 months and tried again, and I had better success. I want to thank you all for watching my video, and I hope to see you again soon on the next one.